Can you read Mommy's Christmas letter? Its very special trembling voice of a little girl echoed through the grand marble hall of Boston's most luxurious hotel, slicing through the hum of laughter, champagne glasses, and Christmas music. 7-year-old Sophie Ellis, dressed in a faded blue dress and clutching a yellowed envelope, stood at the edge of a world that did not belong to her. The glittering annual Christmas gala of Vail Industrial Security had already begun to move toward her. Their dark suits and earpieces made her seem even smaller. But before they could act, a single voice, calm, deep, and commanding, stopped them. Wait. From across the Golden Hall, Adrian Vail, billionaire CEO, known for his cold precision and unreadable face, turned to look. Something about the child's eyes froze him mid-step. Green, the exact same piercing shade he saw in the mirror every morning. Sophie's small hands shook as she held the envelope out toward him. Please, sir, it's from my mommy. She said you'd read it. Adrian approached slowly, the crowd parting instinctively. His fiancée, Serena Cross, glided behind him in a red gown that shimmered like firelight, her expression carved into perfection, but her eyes full of irritation. Adrian, she whispered sharply, this is absurd. She's just a child who wandered in and didn't respond. His gaze stayed locked on the girl, who looked like she'd walked straight out of winter itself. Cheeks raw from the cold, hair tangled, shoes soaked through. Who's your mother? He asked quietly. Maya Ellis, Sophie said. She told me you'd remember her. The name hit him like an electric shock. Maya Ellis took the envelope, his hands trembling slightly as he recognized the delicate handwriting on its front. It couldn't be. It had been 8 years. Broke the seal. Each word on the page carved through his chest. Adrian, if you're reading this, it means Sophie reached you. I don't know if you'll care, or if you'll even remember me, but I'm out of time. I'm sick, and I can't leave her alone. She's your daughter. Adrien Thayer left his lungs. My daughter? He whispered. Sophie's eyes filled with tears. Mommy said you didn't know. She said someone stopped her from telling you. Serena's manicured fingers tightened around her glass stem until it cracked. Adrian knelt, eye level with the little girl. Are you saying your mother is sick? Sophie nodded, wiping her face with a sleeve too thin for December. She's really sick. I'm scared she's gonna go away forever, for the first time in years. The man everyone called the Ice King of Boston felt tears burning behind his eyes. Didn't yet know that the woman standing behind him, the one who smiled for the cameras and held his arm at every gala, was the very reason he'd never known about his child. Serena Cross had destroyed Maya Ellis 8 years ago, and now her secret had walked right through the front door. Outside, the December wind howled down Boylston Street. Sophie stood there shivering while Adrian gave quiet orders to his driver. Where's your mother? He asked. At home, she whispered. It's not far. I walked. He frowned. You walked? In this weather? She nodded, eyes wide. Mommy said it was the most important thing I'd ever do. Adrian draped his coat around her shoulders. The expensive one nearly swallowed her, but she clutched it gratefully. Let's go find your mother, he said. Serena stepped forward, her voice trembling with false calm. Adrian, you don't know if any of this is true. For all we know, this is some elaborate scam. He looked at her, really looked, and saw only fear behind the perfect smile. If it's a scam, he said coldly, it's the most convincing one I've ever seen. Opened the car door for Sophie, ignoring Serena's protests, and followed her in. The sleek black Mercedes pulled away from the glittering hotel, leaving behind the sound of carols and champagne, heading toward the cold, forgotten corners of the city. Sophie guided him through streets Adrian hadn't driven through in years, places where the holiday lights didn't shine. The car stopped in front of a narrow apartment building with peeling paint and a broken elevator sign taped to the door. Sophie led the way up 3 flights of stairs. When they reached the door marked 3C, she hesitated. Mommy might be asleep, she whispered. The apartment was dim, small, but spotless. A faint scent of chamomile tea and sickness hung in the air. On a worn couch by the window lay Maya Ellis, pale, fragile, her breathing shallow. The woman who had once been the only person capable of making Adrian feel alive. Maya, he whispered, his voice breaking. Her eyes fluttered open, confusion, then disbelief. Adrian? She tried to sit up, but the effort made her cough violently across the room into strides. Kneeling beside her, why didn't you tell me? I tried, she rasped. They wouldn't let me. You changed your number. You never answered my letters. Then Serena came. She said you knew, that you didn't want us. Adrian froze. Serena? Maya nodded weakly. She told me if I tried to contact you again, you'd get a restraining order. She said you said. It was better if you never knew. Adrian's chest tightened. Everything clicked, every unanswered message, every unexplained rumor. Serena had orchestrated all of it. Turned toward Sophie, who was watching them with anxious eyes. Maya, he said quietly, the letter said you're sick. She nodded. It's my immune system. It's shutting down. Without treatment, they give me 6 months. Maybe less. Adrian took her cold hand in his. Then you're getting that treatment. I'll cover everything. The hospital, the specialists, whatever it takes. Maya shook her head weakly. I can't let you. You can, he said, voice firm. You have to. For Sophie. Sophie moved closer, clutching her mother's arm. Please, Mommy. He wants to help. Maya's tears slipped silently down her cheeks. All right, she whispered. All right. Adrian lifted her gently, his arm surprisingly steady for a man who'd built empires with spreadsheets and strategy. I've got you, he murmured. Both of Yelly drove through the night toward Massachusetts General Hospital, a billionaire, a dying woman, and the daughter he'd never known existed when Maya was admitted to a private suite. Doctors rushed in, nurses hooked IVs, machines beeped softly. Sophie fell asleep in a chair beside the bed, her small hand clutching her mother's. Adrian stood at the window, staring out at the city lights. His entire world, built on control, calculation, and logic, had collapsed in a single night. Had a daughter, he had a second chance, and someone he trusted had stolen 8 years of his life. The morning light slipped through the tall hospital windows, pale and cold. Machines beeped softly around Maya Ellis's bed. For the first time in days, color had returned to her face. Adrian Vale sat silently in the chair beside her, his jacket draped over the sleepy form of Sophie, who had refused to leave her mother's side. Maya's eyes fluttered open. You're still here, she murmured weakly. I'm not leaving. Adrian said. Her lips trembled with a tired smile. You always said you were married to your work. I thought that would never change. It almost didn't, he admitted, until last night. He looked down at Sophie. The little girl was curled up with her head on his arm, one hand still clutching the sleeve of his coat. His daughter. He didn't need a test to know what every instinct in his body screamed it was true. I've missed so much, he said quietly. 7 years of birthdays, first words, first steps, everything. Maya's eyes filled with tears. It wasn't your fault. He turned to her. It was Serena, wasn't it? Maya hesitated. She came to see me after I found out I was pregnant. She said you wanted nothing to do with me, that you'd pay me if I disappeared. I thought she was speaking for you. Adrian's jaw tightened. She's been lying to both of us for 8 years. Stood, pacing the room as fury boiled beneath the surface. The same hands that had built a corporate empire now trembled not from fear, but rage. She took everything from me, he said. My family, my child, you, Adrian, Maya whispered, her voice weak but urgent. Don't let anger be the only thing driving you. Just help Sophie. Promise me that. He turned back to her, eyes softening. You don't have to ask. She's mine. I'll take care of both of you. Always. That evening, Serena Cross's diamond heels echoed down the sterile hospital corridor. She paused at the door to Maya's room, fixing her reflection in the glass. Her smile looked perfect again, but there was panic behind her eyes. Stepped inside without knocking. Adrian, she said sweetly. You've been impossible to reach. I was worried. Adrian didn't look up from the paperwork he was reviewing. You shouldn't have come. Serena's smile tightened. You've missed 2 meetings, 3 investor calls, and walked out of the biggest event of the year. People are asking questions. Let them, he said flatly. Serena's gaze flicked toward Maya, lying pale in the bed, and Sophie asleep beside her. This is touching, she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. But are you sure she's telling the truth? Adrian looked up sharply. What do you mean? Women lie, Adrian, Serena said softly, especially when they're desperate. How can you know this child is yours without proof? Her tone was gentle, reasonable, exactly the same way she convinced him 8 years ago that Maya had moved on. He studied her face, searching for the woman he thought he'd known. There was only calculation. You're right, he said finally. We'll do a DNA test. Serena's relief was almost imperceptible, but it was there, a flicker of victory in her eyes. I'll arrange it, she said quickly. We'll use our company's medical partner. Discreet, professional, fast. Adrian nodded. Tomorrow morning, the next day. The test was taken in a pristine lab, just a simple cheek swab for Adrian and Sophie. The doctor smiled, promised quick results. and Serena lingered just long enough to ensure every step was handled properly. That night, Adrian returned to the hospital. Maya was awake, sitting up slightly, her furlines trailing like threads of glass. "How did it go?" she asked. "Quick," he said. "We'll have the results tomorrow." She tried to smile, but there was fear behind her eyes. "I already know the truth," she whispered. "So do I," he said quietly. "But I want proof. Not for me, for everyone else." He reached for her hand. It was cold, but stronger than yesterday. "You're getting better," he said. "I feel a little stronger," she admitted. "The doctors say the new treatment is helping. I just wish I could stop worrying." He leaned closer. "You don't have to worry anymore, Maya. You and Sophie are safe now." She wanted to believe that. Next afternoon, his phone rang. The number belonged to Dr. Peterson, the company's medical director. "Mr. Vale," came the doctor's carefully measured voice. "I have your test results." Adrian's pulse quickened. "And I'm sorry, sir," Peterson said. "The results are negative. There is no biological relationship between you and the child." Silence. Adrian's mind went blank. He looked down at the paper in his hand, the doctor's words blurring together. "That's not possible," he said flatly. "The test was run twice." Peterson continued. "It's conclusive." "I'm sorry." Adrian hung up slowly, staring at nothing. When he finally turned, Maya was watching him, her face pale. "It's wrong," she said immediately. "It has to be." He didn't speak. "Adrian," she said, her voice breaking, "you have to believe me. There was never anyone else, ever." He met her eyes, and for a moment, the man who had walked through fire for truth found himself doubting it. "I believe you," he said finally, but his tone was distant. "Still, we'll do another test, just to be sure." Maya's tears spilled freely. "Please don't let her lose you because of this. Please." He turned away, jaw tight. "I won't, but I need answers." Behind the calm mask, his chest felt hollow. Everything he'd started to feel, hope, love, belonging, was slipping back into the darkness Serena had built around him that night. In her penthouse overlooking the city, Serena cross-poured herself a glass of champagne. She smiled as she took the call. "It's done," Dr. Peterson said quietly. "The official report says negative, just as you requested." Serena's voice was silk and poison. "Good. And the originals?" "Destroyed." "Perfect," she said, swirling the golden liquid in her glass. "Keep the bonus I wired you. You've earned it." She ended the call and looked out over the glittering skyline. Adrian Vale would never know. The test, the truth, the past buried again. At least, that's what she thought. Days passed. Maya's treatment continued. Sophie laughed less. Adrian visited often, but stayed a little further away each time. He told himself it was to give Maya space. But the truth was harder. Doubt had crept in. Every time he looked at Sophie, he saw his own eyes, his own quiet stubbornness, and yet the paper in his desk drawer said otherwise. When Sophie called him Mr. Vale instead of Daddy, something inside him broke. Each night, he sat alone in his office. The test report spread before him like a wound for the first time in his life. Adrian Vale didn't know what to believe. The snow came early that week, soft flakes melting against the glass outside Massachusetts General. Inside, the air smelled of antiseptic, and fear Maya Ellis's condition had worsened overnight. Machines hummed and blinked beside her bed as doctors moved quietly, their faces grave. Sophie sat in the waiting room, knees pulled to her chest, clutching Adrian's coat. Her eyes were red and swollen when Adrian arrived, shirt half-buttoned, coat thrown over his shoulders. She ran to him and broke down. "Daddy, please don't let Mommy die." She sobbed into his chest. "Please, I'll be good forever. I promise. Just don't let her go." He froze for a moment. She hadn't called him Daddy since the test. Then his arms wrapped around her. "I've got you," he murmured, "and I'm not letting her go. Not this time." He sat there all night, holding the child he now knew in his bones was his own. No matter what science said. By morning, Maya had stabilized. Barely. When they were finally allowed to see her, she looked like a ghost, pale, fragile, the soft rise and fall of her chest the only proof. She was still alive. Sophie climbed into the bed beside her and whispered, "I thought you were going to heaven." Maya weakly smiled, tears glistening in her lashes. "Not yet, baby. I'm still here." Adrian stood at the foot of the bed, his jaw tight, his mind spinning. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. He'd built a career on spotting inconsistencies, and the DNA test had too many. The timing, the doctor, Serena's eagerness. It didn't add up. That afternoon, while Maya slept and Sophie napped beside her, Adrian stepped into the hallway and me to call Michael. He said when the line picked up, I need you to look into something. The man on the other end, the private investigator Adrian trusted for corporate matters, sounded surprised. What's going on? I need to know everything about a DNA test done last week at Peterson Labs. Every name, every email, every transfer of funds. Peterson Labs? Michael repeated. That's one of your company's medical contractors. Exactly, Adrian said darkly. That's what worries me. And check Serena Cross's accounts. All of them. There was a pause. That's a serious accusation, so is keeping a man from his child for 8 years, Adrian said. Find me the truth. 2 days later, the truth came crashing in like a thunderstorm. Mitchell arrived at Adrian's penthouse, face grim, holding a folder. You might want to sit down. Adrian didn't. He opened a file right there by the window. Inside, printouts, wire transfers, screenshots. A single payment from Serena Cross's personal account to Dr. Peterson's offshore account. $50,000. Made the day before the test results were delivered. There were also emails Peterson confirming the requested adjustment and text messages, written in Serena's meticulous style. Make sure the result says negative. I don't care what the real outcome is. The report must say Vale is not the father. Adrian read it 3 times before closing the folder for a long moment. He said nothing. Then, quietly, she did it again. Again? Michael asked. 8 years ago, she intercepted messages from Maya. He said, she told me Maya left, that she'd found someone else. She made me believe it. Michael exhaled. What are you going to do? Adrian's eyes were cold steel. Prove the truth. This time with a lab she can't touch. The second DNA test was done in secret, under a different name, in a different city. No one knew except Adrian, Maya, and Michael. 3 days later, the results arrived. 99.99% match. Adrian Vale with Sophie Ellis's biological father. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. His vision blurred. The page shook in his hand. She'd known it. He'd always known. Without another word, he drove straight to the hospital. When he entered Maya's room, she was sitting up, her color stronger now. Sophie was drawing at a small table in the corner, humming quietly. Adrian's expression alone told Maya everything. Her hand flew to her mouth as tears welled in her eyes. She's mine, he said hoarsely. The new test came back. She's really mine. Maya began to cry soft, disbelieving sobs. Sophie looked up in confusion. What test? Adrian knelt in front of her. Sweetheart, the first test was wrong. Someone lied. But this one tells the truth. He smiled through tears. I'm your father, Sophie. For real this time. Her small hands flew to her mouth. Really? Really? He said. I'm so sorry I ever doubted it. Can you forgive me? Sophie launched herself into his arms, burying her face in his shoulder. I knew it, she whispered. I told Mommy you were my daddy. Maya watched them, her heart breaking open with relief. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe in miracles. Adrian looked up at her over Sophie's head. We're a family, he said quietly, and no one will ever take that from us again. That evening, Adrian went home for the first time in days. Serena Cross was waiting for him in a silk robe, champagne chilling. Candlelight walked past her without a word. Darling, she purred, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. You're finally home. I've missed you. He turned slowly. The look in his eyes made her falter. Sit down. He said something in his tone, made her obey. Adrian dropped the folder onto the coffee table. Recognize this? Serena's smile flickered. What is that? Proof, he said. You paid Peterson to falsify the DNA results. That's ridiculous. $50,000 from your private account. He interrupted. Messages, emails, everything. You lied to me. You did it again. Her face went pale. Adrian, I can explain. Don't. He snapped. 8 years ago, you destroyed my relationship with Maya. You stole my daughter from me, and now you tried to do it again. Serena's composure shattered. I did it for you, for us. You would have thrown everything away for that woman, for a mistake. That woman, Adrian said coldly, is the mother of my child, and she's the only person who ever made me human. He took a step closer. You're finished here. You'll resign tomorrow, and if you're not gone by morning, I'll make sure every investor in this city knows what you did. Her eyes blazed. You'll regret this, Adrian. She's dying. She won't last a year. Then what? You'll be left with a child you barely know. I'll take that over spending one more second with you, he said. Now get out. Serena's perfect mask cracked completely. She grabbed her coat, tears of rage streaking her face. and stormed out into the night. Adrian watched her go. He felt nothing but relief. Next morning, he was back at the hospital. Maya was stronger, her cheeks warm again, her smile soft. Sophie was at school her first day at the private academy Adrian had arranged. I ended it. He told Maya quietly. Serena's gone. She won't hurt us again. Maya looked at him, uncertain. You didn't have to. I did, he said. For me, for you, for her. He took her hand, his voice lowering. I've wasted 8 years. I'm not wasting another day. From his pocket, he pulled a small velvet box. Maya gasped softly. Adrian. He opened it. The ring caught the morning light. Maya Ellis, you are the love of my life. You gave me the best part of myself. I know the timing isn't perfect. You're still fighting, but I don't care. I want to marry you. Whatever time we have, I want it with you. Tears filled her eyes. You can't want to marry me, Adrian. I'm sick. I don't know how long I have. He smiled faintly. Then I'll spend every minute making it count. Her hand trembled as she touched the ring. Yes, she whispered as slipped it onto her finger. Then it settled. The weeks that followed felt like something out of a dream. For the first time since that night at the gala, the shadows around Adrian Vale began to lift. Maya's treatment worked slowly, painfully, but it worked. Her color returned, her voice grew stronger, her laughter, once soft and rare, began to fill the hospital room again. Each morning, Adrian arrived with flowers or breakfast, sometimes both. He'd bring Sophie school drawings, stick figure families labeled me, Mommy, and Daddy, and taped them proudly to the walls. Your daughter's an artist. He'd say with a grin. Maya would smile, still too weak to laugh fully. She gets that from you. He raised an eyebrow. I'm fairly sure spreadsheets don't count as art. Smiled wider. The way you built your company was art. You just used numbers instead of paint. Adrian chuckled softly, and for a moment, they both forgot about the IVs and the beeping machines. By mid-December, Maya was strong enough to leave the hospital. Adrian moved her and Sophie into his Beacon Hill mansion, a sprawling estate of glass, light, and silence. At first, Maya protested. Adrian, this is too much. We can't live here. He folded his arms, half smiling. Maya, you and Sophie already do live here. You just haven't unpacked yet. She laughed, the sound echoing down the grand hallway. It was the first time the house had felt alive in years. The guest house became her recovery suite, a sunlit haven overlooking the gardens. Sophie had her own room upstairs, complete with a view of the city skyline and more books than she could count. That first morning, Adrian made breakfast. Sophie sat at the counter, swinging her legs. Are you sure you know how to cook? He flipped a pancake badly. Not at all, she giggled. Mommy says pancakes are easy, then I'm in trouble, he said. Burning another one. By the third attempt, they were edible. Sophie declared them the best pancakes in the world. And Adrian knew she was lying, but he didn't care. He was making breakfast for his daughter. That was enough. In the weeks that followed, life began to resemble something normal. Adrian worked from his home office, but always made time to eat dinner with Maya and Sophie. He'd listen as Sophie told stories from school about the friends she was making, the teachers she loved. Maya would listen, smiling quietly, her hand resting on Adrian's. They celebrated small victories, a good lab result, a morning without pain, a day full of laughter. At night, when Sophie was asleep, Adrian and Maya would sit by the fire in silence, just watching the flames. You know, Maya said one night, I used to imagine what your life looked like. The parties, the money, the view from your tower. I thought you'd forgotten about me. I tried to, he admitted. It didn't work. She turned toward him, eyes soft. Why? Because you were the only real thing I ever had, he said. And I let someone take that away from me. She reached for his hand. You didn't let her. You trusted the wrong person. There's a difference. Adrian smiled faintly. I won't make that mistake again. On December 23rd, almost 1 month after that fateful night, the Vale mansion was transformed into something out of a dream. Soft white lights lined the winter garden. Snow fell gently outside the glass walls. The scent of pine and roses filled the air. It was their wedding day. Maya stood before a mirror, in an ivory gown, simple, elegant, timeless. Her hair, once dull and brittle, now glowed with soft curls. She looked fragile still, but radiant. Sophie gasped when she saw her. Mommy, you look like a princess. Maya knelt, taking her daughter's small face in her hands. You're my princess, she said softly. In the garden below, Adrian waited. He wore a tailored black suit and a white rose on his lapel. When the music began, his heart raced, not with nerves, but gratitude. Maya walked down the aisle without help. Each step was slow, deliberate, and full of quiet triumph. When she reached him, Adrian's eyes glistened. "You made it," he whispered. "I told you I would." She said the fishing began, but the rest blurred. All Adrian could see was her when it came time for vows. His voice shook. Adrian Vale, take you, Maya Ellis, to be my wife. I promise to love you in sickness and in health. Though I intend to do everything in my power to keep you in health, I promise to be the husband I should have been 8 years ago, and the father Sophie deserves. Every day I wake up, I'll be grateful for this second chance." Maya's tears fell freely as she spoke hers. Maya Ellis, take you, Adrian Vale, to be my husband. I promise to fight to stay here with you and Sophie for as long as I can. I promise to forgive the past and trust the future. You saved me, Adrian. You saved both of us. When they kissed, Sophie cheered, her laughter echoing through the hall. Small circle of friends and staff applauded, some wiping their eyes. The man, once known as Boston's coldest CEO, cried openly, holding his wife and daughter in his arms. Christmas morning came with soft light. A Latterth mansion smelled of cinnamon and pine. A massive tree filled the living room, decorated with glass ornaments and paper snowflakes Sophie had made herself. She ran downstairs in pajamas, squealing at the mountain of presents under the tree. Maya followed more slowly, wrapped in a robe, smiling as she watched her daughter tear through wrapping paper. Adrian came in carrying coffee and looked around the room. The firelight, the snow outside, the laughter that had replaced silence. Sat beside Maya and handed her a small box. She opened it to find a locket. Inside was a tiny photo of him, her, and Sophie at the hospital. On the other side, engraved words, "The family we were meant to." Bet her throat tightened. "Adrian." He kissed her forehead. "I've had everything money can buy, but this is what I was missing." Maya leaned against him. "You think we deserve all this happiness?" He smiled softly. "After everything we went through?" "Yes." Sophie jumped onto the couch between them, holding a new stuffed bear. "This is the best Christmas ever." Maya laughed through her tears. "It really is." Adrian wrapped his arms around both of them. The fire crackled softly, snow fell outside, and for the first time in nearly a decade, he felt peace. But peace wasn't the same as forgetting. Some nights, when the house was quiet, Adrian would walk into his study and look at the folder. Michael had given him the proof of Serena's betrayal. Didn't reopen it. He didn't need to. The past no longer had power over him. What mattered was the life he had now. Maya's laughter in the kitchen, Sophie's drawings on his office wall, the warmth that finally replaced all the cold years. For the first time in his life, Adrian Vale didn't need to build anything more. He already had everything worth keeping.